Today I want to talk about a couple of things, my lovely 5D mystics and the Enlightenment Soul Age group, and those who are choosing to be functional adults. So you are in your restored embodied self, you have secure attachment, you're an integrated mind. You know these words, and if you don't, find out more by becoming either a paid subscriber or just tuning into episodes and or reaching out, however you prefer. So integrated mind, I actually get to learn about that from Daniel Siegel in my course on interpersonal neurobiology, which I'm finishing up. And it's amazing when you do know how the mind works. It's also amazing when you bring in the human elements with spiritual, holistic, naturopathy, all of the crystals, metaphysics, esotericism, everything. Reiki is part of CAM now, but even Reiki, we can integrate it there because there's a bunch of stories. And in fact, this is where the energy vampire thing is going to come into the mix. And then spirituality. I like to learn from Sadhguru about spirituality. And so the yoga and yoga science is what it's called now. But I bring that all together. And I bring in the human element, which is really what is missing when I encounter people who talk to me about mysticism, intuitiveness, Reiki, crystals, metaphysics, yada, yada, yada. Now, the scientific realm is much more practical. So obviously there's a way of minimizing, if you will, the experiences that those of us who are in the 5D realm as mystics go through, but they don't minimize it if you meet the right ones. They actually have information that is very helpful. There's a video that you should watch, the second one of his name's Patrick, I think, McNamara. I have his book, but it's about neuroscience and religion. And in this first video that I shared with the community, he talks about the importance of REM, the importance of how our nightmares are it's trauma memory, trying to restore itself to normal memory. Because see, every human being's body is actually trying, thank you, somatic. Also, trauma experts, where my awakened body certificate from EP helps me to know about somatics and somatic narrative and be somatic informed, and the dysregulated, modulated embodied self is trying to return to a restorative embodied self. So the 5D person is actually a human being who's in a restored embodied self, who's also engaging in their social engagement system in the absence of yoga. By the way, we didn't need yoga. I didn't need yoga. Naturally, just throughout my years of life, have been able to engage in what is my ventral vagal or vagus nerve. Didn't need to do toning, but I do sense the benefits when I do yoga from the inner engineering and the Shambhavi Kriya that I did take with Sadhguru. I loved his grace of yoga, helped me to appreciate the elements. And by helped me, I mean I got to have this experience of a way of expanding my consciousness even more. But again, these are actually little things, because it's not like, but what I've realized is my mind's also an integrated mind. And I use my right brain mode and then my left brain mode, and that I use them without any issue, meaning I don't have to have A and B match up. In fact, if A and B disconnect and they completely contradict themselves, because I do use my right brain mode, and that means dealing with the unknown, uncertainty, unwanted from within with the flow, meaning I don't need to have the answer now. I don't need the left mode to put it into one category, and here's where separateness consciousness. So people will talk about separateness consciousness and 4D and 3D, and apparently they think they're 5D. 5D means oneness consciousness. It means unconditional love. It means you love humanity. It means many things that I don't see those who, again, talk about mysticism and intuitiveness, and in that realm of spiritual and spirituality, I actually see complete separation consciousness and little groups. And then I see something that I really don't appreciate, which is when I'm looking at someone who is a leader of a group, and whether they're a shaman or they're a tarot reader or they're a channeler or they're a medium, all aspects that I understand personally. So I see these individuals who are considered leaders by their followers, and I see them voice something along the lines of, don't do therapy, don't be concerned with mental health that way. No. Here, I have a great way for you to get through all of it. And That's not how growing up works. That's not how consciousness would expand. So here's what I learned as a kid. People don't like learning. Apparently, somehow, kids didn't want to learn. I would get frustrated when I didn't know shit. Excuse me. I need to watch out because YouTube, I think, is a little bit more strict than Anchor and so, well, Spotify for podcasters now. So long story short, I still had a hard time learning, but I loved learning new information because I'm curious. So back to that lovely social engagement system, a 5D person will love life. We wake up every day. That's why Krishna Lila, we're curious. And we don't get less curious as we move into life. We get more curious. And we don't get less loving because people don't choose love. We get more loving because we've chosen it very easily right here. What do I want to choose? Do I want to choose to be unhappy, or do I want to choose? I'm going to choose happiness. Why would I not? People say it's special. No, it's not special. I don't have a genius brain. I don't have a genius body. I do have secure attachment. But 50% or more of the population of only one country has secure attachment. So it seems to me that I'm not that, again, different. My body had secure attachment. My body moved into a restored embodied self. Why? Well, let me think. Did I start making choices that were unhealthy for my body? No, I didn't. I actually was quite clear on when I'd make choices that were not healthy, because, you kind of feel not really great when you're choosing things that don't do good to your body. So again, consciousness is very straightforward. Now, I do want to break a stick in the favor of the fact that our physiological brains, the executive decision makers, they completely develop, thank you science, about the age of 25 for the physiological, biological female body. And the physiological, biological male body, it's 28. The embodied brain, the frontal lobes, I believe it is, they completely finish to develop and at those ages. Now, I don't want to make it a science-based thing because I do the whole mixing it up, pseudoscience. So it's not bullshit, but this is where I will leave to those who want more in an empirical way. I got plenty of links I can send you to, plenty of courses you might want to take, and that way you can hear about it yourself if your ears are open to it, because this is the other part. When people are not open to it, they hear what they want to hear, and then they, translate that information to adapt it to their stories. I've seen it done by those who completely, again, talk about being intuitives and mystics. They look up information when it comes to attachment categories, or when it comes to aspects of human non-secure, again, trauma stuff, and they will use it against each other. And they will call each other names. They will cancel, block, they'll do things that are quite unnecessary, because if you really think that one of your loved ones or people you're around has a specific thing, you would say, hey, I think we should go officially diagnose you, and then we should go on a path together. Because, if you're going to actually accuse someone of anything and use those words, you should go and get it categorized, should you not? Let me think. So here's why. Whenever someone chooses to maybe potentially use certain words, ever since I was a kid, it's like, well, it's your words. I really don't think you are the law. Therefore, I don't think I need to take seriously anything that you're saying. And I probably won't, because at the end of the day, you seem kind of emotional when you're doing it. And I would say that that's running your mouth right now. So if you want to have a good, serious adult conversation, come back to me when you're calm. When you're calm, then we can talk. So restored embodied self, integrated mind, not hard at all. Choosing love, not hard again. 5D mystics. Please join us. For those who are not 5D mystics, okay, so I'm going to break this story down in the best way possible. This is my second recording. I have understood the non-secure bodies, and I have understood that all bodies and all minds are trying to restore themselves. So the nightmare guy and religious self, and he explains with a buttload of great information and how important it is for people who begin to have demonic nightmares to actually get help sooner than later, because the REM is trying to, again, bring that trauma memory into normal memory. So our bodies and minds, our feminine and our masculine, is trying to heal itself all on its own. Doing the shortcut, let me close that loop. Yeah, teenagers wanted shortcuts. I never understood it. There aren't shortcuts. If you don't process an emotion, you're not processing it. You're just shoving it down. thank you, empirical science, for proving something that was just so common sense to me as a kid. Like, why would you suppress your emotions? Just get it out, talk about it. There's so many sensitive people out there, but they also don't know what it means to be a human. And the intuitive people think that they're special because of their clairs. No one's more special than anyone. We're all the same people. We just have a way that we tap into our consciousness differently. So some will do it from the aspect of the clear land. And here's the saddest part, is that the clairs are in our dream state. They actually are something. I know what it's like. And the layer that you're getting to work with, if you do it, is your mental and emotional. That means growing the love in your body. That means moving into your social engagement. But what I've seen people do is follow their leaders, follow the story, and the story goes something along the lines of, I am special, I'm an anointed one, I am this, I am that, and there you go. So they find where they fit, and there's your teenagers again, because teenagers are the ones who are looking where to fit. I recently described to a teenager a bunch of identity labels, and I loved, she laughed at me. I was like, yeah, I'm just organizing it in case I need to use it. But I was like very fond of our conversation, because I get to see how amazing the teenagers of today are going to be compared to the adults who I love my adults, but they're definitely still lacking in awareness of working with their emotional insecurities, because they don't actually think that they can move them from insecure to secure, but you can. It's when you allow yourself to process that which is really, really difficult. And I'm going to put a quote, because for a 5D mystic, life is not difficult. Emotions aren't difficult. But again, it's a restored embodied self with an integrated mind. So my mature masculine and my mature feminine, they're good with life. They're good with people. What makes me sad is seeing people use, the word 5 dimension, which is uncontrolled love, oneness consciousness, not be in it, then use mysticism, intuitiveness, and their own clairs in a way that keeps people in a space that doesn't have to be. So all subject matters are important. Spiritual, metaphysics, esotericism, all of these areas, they're important. I don't know all of the stories, but I have heard of some. Spirituality, important. I love being able to know the words Krishna, Leela, Shiva, and Kali. They embody experiences from an emotional perspective that those of us who are in this infinite higher human consciousness potential experience feel. Krishna Leela is you when you're in your social engagement system. And this reminds me of the menu that we got and that we've talked about for when you're engaging with life from your ventral vagal. It's tastier, okay, versus if you're in your sympathetic, which is going to be, you need to get a healthy way to express either frustration or anxiety. And instead, dorsal vagal is there's no energy, and so you want to, how can I energize myself? So Krishna Lila is a representation of that when we're in our ventral vagal nerve. So you're engaged with, you're savoring something. Like if you've ever just stopped to savor, which is why you expand that consciousness. It's a moment that you savor, and you can hold that, FYI, if you practice it. Integration and an integrated mind, as Daniel Siegel presents, to be able and practice the muscle of that equals you a differentiated self. So my thoughts, my emotions, linked to another human being by being present without the default mode network, which is chatter, which we've talked about, and I'm not going to talk about right now. But this is where the minute you understand that if you're learning how to be a functional adult, that's when you're connecting to your higher self. We all have charge states. So this is a whole buttload of beautiful information. People don't know any of it, nor are they interested. And I'm talking to certain people about all the trauma and somatics informed and how our nervous system and embodied brain works. They roll their eyes or they listen to be polite. They actually don't even become aware, unless they're curious about themselves as a human. They don't become aware of that word well-being. It's accessible to you. They don't care. Somehow making it that simple apparently doesn't work. Shortcuts. Let's get back to shortcuts. I was a teenager and I'm like, you can't take shortcuts. I think you're going to miss out on something. It's like a feeling. So, but hey, you know what? People want that proof, but you know what proof is? It means you don't even pay attention. The reality is you're just following your story. So I see a lot of people, they're always going to follow whatever they've chosen, which is where You either listen because you are actually curious, and then you actually think, I wonder. So it's only when people are open and receptive that they will hear someone in presence. So the 5D mystic is always present. We're not judging. We're not coming in with our past. We know where we are. And that's because, though, we have a restored embodied self and an integrated mind. So it's easy for us to be differentiated selves, to link and join. We don't merge. And so when we're picking up on those other nervous systems and mirror neurons, we know it's not ours, and we're engaging with presence. And what you realize is how many people BS themselves when they have an insecure response, physiologically speaking, due to past heartbreak. So essentially for today, because I want to try and keep it short, what I have noticed year after year after year of this lovely 5-dimension community is, one, the ones who are here, they're going to be talking to you about life with love in their eyes and excitement. And the lovely functional adults are the ones who are teaching us about very helpful information, like this Patrick McNamara with his religion and neuroscience is very helpful to anybody who is wanting to move out of 4D. Because I have seen people throughout these 5 to 7 years, online particularly, and I'm talking about channelers, mediums, tarot readers, shaman people, all of this group. They're great. They're supporting each other, but they're missing a very important component. And when they say to people, don't do the science realm, no, don't do the therapy realm, no, this is very, very wrong. And it's very, very wrong because you're not giving people the opportunity to learn about how to actually work through and resolve their charge states, which can involve and does involve their actual physical life here of now, and it involves their body's experience by being able to allow a completion of a restored embodied self. So it's not dry either, because I know the people in the sciences, when I share about my clairs, I get either weird looks or there's like, no, but it's only, your brain. So that takes away from the special experiences we have with our oversoul and stuff like that. But when you're a 5D, this is why we bring our community together. We can understand the human elements, the importance of the spiritual and spirituality, and all of it really is important because it's all about being a human and being able to be the mature version of yourself. So when you're a mature version of yourself, you care about people. You don't care about the stories. You don't care about the titles. You're not using words to look pretty. In fact, you're not using words in a way of identity. That's where Mahasamadhi Samadhi. I use those words because I have never thought of a word, you're fixed in stone. But what I've realized is I use my right mode, which is where we handle the unknown, uncertainty very easily. And then I use my left mode to organize the information. But those who navigate with left mode, they have to have it organized in a way of, nope, it's the parts. This is going to prove it. They want the empirical. There's like a way the brain functions, and I'm still learning about it. So to be continued in another episode. But for this one, I'm trying to think to wrap it up. When I hear people talking to me about their own awareness of past experiences having brought to them emotional pain, and then they choose to use their own intuitiveness, which, by the way, it's because we are nervous systems that we actually pick up on each other, but some are more aware of it than others. And so whenever I've heard people talk about this awareness and then being able to use it in a way that they acknowledge, it's not, they don't use it, but then again, they acknowledge it. All I can say is, if you're hiding to your own self, the fact that you have emotions that are upset, you're hiding it very clearly. And to make up a BS story is very easy, apparently. And that's really just a choice. A choice that I don't understand personally, but that's where, 5D is oneness consciousness again. We don't know separation from all life. We don't know separation from love. We don't know fear of emotions. Instead, apparently, a good portion of people know fear of emotions. And our evolutionary science talks a thing or two about it. And that's where if you stay grounded and basically just know I'm a person, how I treat you is an indication of how I treat you. How you treat me is an indication of you. If you have compassion and enough knowledge, you'll know you're not necessarily choosing your biological rudeness, a term coined by Stephen Porges, because that's where biological rudeness means a person's in their red or yellow zone. They're not in the social engagement system. I have dealt with people in that. I consistently do. And I still to this day choose to be loving. I always have, always will. Why? Because I can. Because they don't represent a physical threat. I don't need to engage in a self-preservation mode. But apparently that explanation doesn't suffice to those. So long story short, when people want to talk to me about energy vampires, or when they want to talk to me about evil in any way, shape, or form, what I have to say is trauma, unresolved, attachment, non-secure for sure, maybe even disorganized, not evil, completely devastated by their own emotional realm. And if they're in the secure attachment, so the average day-to-day bear, they consciously choose to move into making up excuses and just pretend that it's okay. And, here's the part, or they'll justify it. Like there's all these ways that they don't continue to explore and say, you know what, let me bring the feeling to a level of maturity. Oh no, because you can't work with feelings. Apparently, somehow, somewhere people figured they couldn't work with emotions. Go figure, you can. But long story short, a 5D person will always talk about the human stuff, spiritual and spirituality with respect to all, because they're part of this human experience. The infinite higher human consciousness potential is accessible to any person who actually does care about themselves and others, in a way of saying, let's not talk about each other with names or block, unfriend, all this stuff. Let's have actual vulnerable conversations. I think that will get us far. So I'm here to simplify getting into that lovely Enlightenment Soul Age group for those who want. And in the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day. Choose love. It's easy. Mwah.